In Jamaica, you learn early. If you want something, you work twice. Not because life is cruel, but because life doesn't hand out free passes. So when the acceptance email came from Kyoto University, I cried like the world had finally looked my way. Not cute crying, ugly crying. Snot, tears in my mouth, the whole thing. Because Japan wasn't just a place I wanted to visit. It was a place I'd been living inside for years. Anime, J-dramas, J-music. While other people went out, I sat on my bed watching shows with subtitles and pausing every 5 seconds like, wait, why did she say it like that? Is that polite or rude? Is he flirting or threatening? That's how I taught myself Japanese. First speaking, then reading, then writing. My notebooks looked like a crime scene. Hiragana, katakana, kanji. Sticky notes on my walls, my mirror, my fridge. And I didn't care if it looked nerdy. Because I didn't come from a place where you could afford to be embarrassed about what you loved. So when I landed in Kyoto, the air cold and clean in my lungs, the streets so neat it didn't feel real, I told myself, this is it. This is your main character moment. And for 2 weeks, it was, until class started. The first day of class, I sat down early, opened my notebook, and prepared like a soldier. Then the professor started speaking, and my confidence evaporated. Business Japanese isn't Japanese. It's a weapon. Fast, sharp, relentless. The professor spoke like he was throwing knives made of vocabulary, and I sat there smiling like I understood while my brain panicked in English. When class ended, I didn't even join the students outside. I walked straight to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and breathed like I was coming back up from drowning. That night, I rewatched the lecture on my laptop, pausing every few seconds, writing notes until my hand cramped. And I would have survived the language struggle if it was the only struggle. But by the end of the week, reality showed up in a different form. Money. Rent wasn't playing. Bills weren't playing. Food wasn't playing. I applied everywhere for a part-time job. Convenience stores, cafes, bookshops. I'd walk in, bow, introduce myself politely. And the moment they heard my Japanese, their smiles would stiffen. Your Japanese is good, but. There was always a but. They didn't want to take a chance. They didn't want a foreigner making mistakes in front of customers. They didn't want my accent. They didn't want the risk. So I took the only route left. I applied to teach English online, kids and high schoolers, and I got a weekend job at a cram school. It wasn't glamorous, but it meant I could stay. And that's when I met Ami. Ami found me in the library on one of my worst days. I had flashcards spread out like I was building a detective board. My eyes were dry from reading. My shoulders were tight like I'd been carrying the whole country of Japan on my back. I must have looked miserable, because when Ami sat down beside me, she didn't start with small talk. She just said softly, "You look like you're holding your breath." I blinked. "Do I?" Ami smiled. "Yes, like you're scared you'll say one wrong thing and people will think you don't belong." And for the first time since arriving, I exhaled. Ami was Japanese, born and raised in Kyoto. Soft voice, sharp mind. She didn't pity me. She didn't treat me like a tourist. She treated me like a person who deserved space. She took me to festivals, showed me where students actually ate cheap food, taught me unwritten rules, how to apologize properly, how to speak to professors, how to avoid looking lost even when you were. And then she introduced me to her international circle. That first hangout felt like being adopted into a tiny, chaotic family. Bianca, Bia, from the Philippines, was sunshine with a snack bag. She fed everyone like it was a love language and laughed like the world couldn't hurt her. Malik from Senegal, tall, calm, observant. The kind of guy who didn't talk much, but when he did, everyone listened. Oliver, Ollie, from Britain. Sarcastic, complaining constantly, but somehow always there when you needed him. And Danny from the US. Black American, business chic even at 8 a.m., iced coffee always in hand, eyes sharp like she was reading people for profit. They became my tiny survival family. And then there was him. Kyoto University had attractive students, but Ryo Haruma didn't look like he belonged in school. I noticed Ryo before I met him. Everyone did. He looked like he belonged on a billboard or in a scandal. Bad boy face, sharp eyes, lazy confidence like consequences never reached him. Every girl wanted him. Every guy wanted to be him. And the rumors? His parents are rich. His family owns something big. He'll never have to work a day in his life. What annoyed me wasn't his money. It was that he looked untouched, like life had never pressed him hard enough to leave fingerprints. Then one day, in risk management and finance, the professor announced group partners, and my name got paired with his. The class reacted like they were watching a drama. Gasps, whispers, side eyes. I turned around slowly. Ryo was already looking at me. Not like the other girls looked at him. He looked curious, like I was a puzzle he hadn't solved yet. After class, he walked up to me. "You're Mari, right?" he asked in Japanese. His voice was smooth. I nodded. "Yes." "You're from Jamaica?" "Yes." He tilted his head slightly. "Your Japanese is interesting." I narrowed my eyes. "Interesting?" He smiled. "Not bad. Just different." I sighed. "It's self-taught, so yes. It probably sounds like I learned it from anime villains." Ryo laughed. A real laugh. And for a second, he looked human. But I didn't let myself get charmed. I pulled out my notebook. "Let's talk about the assignment." Ryo's eyes dropped to my notes. Neat. Color-coded. Organized like war plans. His smile faded into something else. Respect. From that day on, he started helping me. Not loudly. Not in a way that made me feel small. Small corrections. Business phrases. Formal tone. How to sound confident without sounding rude. And the more he helped, the more he watched me. Like he was waiting for me to do what the other girls did. Flirt. Fawn. Act impressed. But I didn't. I only cared about passing. And I think it drove him insane. Which would have stayed harmless if it didn't lead to the first crack in the Ryo is untouchable image. One morning, class started and the professor gave a crucial tip for our project. But Ryo wasn't there. The professor didn't look annoyed. If anything, he looked careful. At the end of class, he called me over. "Mari-san," he said, "since you and Haruma-kun are partnered, please bring these materials to him." I stared at the papers. To his apartment? The professor nodded like it was normal. That's when it hit me. Privilege. In Jamaica, if you missed class, you missed class. Nobody delivered your work to your house like you were royalty. But Ryo? Rules bent around him like they were afraid to be straight. I didn't know why yet. I just knew I didn't like it. Still, the assignment mattered. So after my tutoring session, I took the train to his address. And halfway there, I told myself I'd drop the papers, make a quick bow, and leave. That plan lasted until I reached his building. The building was so quiet it felt expensive. The elevator took me so high my ears popped. Penthouse floor. My heart started beating too fast. I pressed the doorbell. For a moment, nothing. Then the door opened. Ryo Haruma stood there half naked. Gray sweatpants hanging low on his hips. Skin damp with sweat. Hair messy. Chest rising and falling like he'd been fighting something and losing. My brain stopped translating Japanese and started panicking in English. Ryo blinked at me slowly. Mari. His voice was rough. I forced my eyes up to his face. I brought the assignment materials. I held them out. He reached for them. Then his hand caught my wrist. Mari. Rio? His grip tightened, not aggressive, desperate. Help me. And then he collapsed, right into my arms. He was burning, like fire. My body reacted before my mind did. Okay, Rio, I got you. I dragged him inside, struggling because he was heavier than he looked. The penthouse was huge, minimalist, cold. I found his bedroom, threw him on the bed. Then I turned like I was going to leave. Because listen, I was not trying to be a fool in a rich boy's house. But he groaned, and something in me, something Jamaican and stubborn and soft, couldn't ignore it. So I went to his kitchen, found a pot, filled it with water, boiled it, grabbed a towel, soaked it, wringed it out, pressed it to his forehead. Rio shivered. His lips were dry. I searched his cabinets. Tea? Soup? Anything? I found garlic, honey, ginger. I made garlic tea like my mother used to when I was sick. I lifted his head and helped him drink. He barely opened his eyes, but his hand caught mine, weakly, and you whispered my name like he was afraid I'd disappear. Mari. I didn't pull away. I stayed until his fever broke. Hours passed. His breathing steadied. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Then I wrote a note. I hope you feel better tomorrow. Please go to the doctor. Mari. And I left. On the train back, I kept telling myself, it was just kindness. It doesn't mean anything. But the next day, Rio looked at me like it meant everything. He showed up in class perfect again. Clean hair, crisp shirt, calm face. But his eyes? His eyes found me immediately. After class, he approached. Thank you, he said quietly. I shrugged. Anyone would have done it. He looked at me like he didn't believe that. I want to repay you. I don't need anything. I'm taking you out. No. He blinked. No? I said no. From that point on, he tried everything. Bringing me snacks, walking me to the station, showing up outside my cram school. I refused him again and again, because I wasn't going to be like every other girl. But slowly, he wore me down. Not with money, with effort. He listened. He remembered. One day I mentioned a movie I wanted to see, just casually. A week later, he bought tickets like it was nothing. Ami noticed first. You're smiling, she teased. I'm not, I lied. Bia squealed like she was watching a show. Ooh, Mari has a man. Malik only watched Rio quietly, like he was measuring him. Danny asked, what does he want from you? Ollie muttered, probably your soul. I laughed, but Danny didn't. Rio finally got me to go out by saying, not a date, a thank you. Kyoto at night has a way of making danger look romantic. Lanterns glowed, street food smoked, footsteps softened under night air. Rio fed me the first bite without thinking, and when I laughed, he stared like the sound was oxygen. It was disarming. I asked him, why are you doing all this? He didn't joke. He said quietly, because you don't want me. I blinked. Excuse me? He smiled faintly. No one looks at me and sees a person. They see a story they want to be in. I didn't answer right away. because for the first time, I saw it. The loneliness behind the confidence. A few days later, he took me to the cinema. My hand rested on the armrest. Rio's hand hovered near it like he was negotiating with himself. Then his fingers touched mine. Slow, careful, not grabbing, not claiming, asking. My heart started acting stupid. I didn't move away. Rio's thumb rubbed my knuckle once, like a promise. The movie blurred because my body refused to calm down. When the credits rolled, he didn't speak right away. He just walked me outside. And when we stood under the night sky, he asked softly, "Can I kiss you?" I stared. My brain said, "Be smart." My heart said, "You already know what you want." I nodded. Rio leaned in and kissed me like it mattered. Not hungry. Reverent. Like he was afraid to ruin something good. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine for a moment, and I realized he wasn't playing. This was Rio letting himself feel. And the scariest part? So was I. A few days later, we were eating ramen in a small shop. Rio stirred his noodles like he was nervous. Then he said casually, "Be my girlfriend." I almost choked. He looked up fast, like he already expected rejection. So I surprised him. I said, "Okay." Rio's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes." His smile was so bright it didn't match his bad boy face. And I realized something then. Rio Haruma was affectionate. The kind of affectionate that made you feel precious. He held my hand in public like he didn't care who saw. He walked on the street side of the sidewalk like a habit. He remembered my class schedule, my tutoring hours, the days I was most stressed. He started showing up with quiet comfort instead of loud gifts. And I hated how good it felt. Because he wasn't just affectionate, he was attentive. And that kind of affection makes you feel safe, right up until you realize someone else is watching it too. It started small. A black car that appeared too often. Men who stood too still, like they were waiting, not living. Ami noticed it first. "Do you feel like someone's watching you?" Bia tried to laugh it off. "Maybe you're just pretty, Mari." Danny didn't laugh. "That's not normal," she said. Malik's eyes scanned the street. "That car has been there twice." Ollie said, "Kyoto's beautiful, but it's not a movie set. Something's wrong." I wanted to believe it was nothing. I wanted to believe love didn't come with consequences. Then it happened. Rio and I were walking hand in hand. Kyoto sunlight soft. I was smiling, actually smiling. Then a voice cut through the air. "Rio." We turned. An older woman stood near a black car. Elegant, sharp. Her presence felt like a blade. Rio froze. His hand loosened. "Kaa-san," he said. "Mother." I looked at him, confused. He dropped my hand completely. His head lowered like a child caught doing something forbidden. My stomach sank. Was he embarrassed of me? Because I was black? Because I was Jamaican? Because I didn't belong in his world? The woman's eyes moved to me. Cold, unreadable. Then she turned away, slid into the back of the expensive black car. The door was held open by a huge buff man in black. Black shades, earpiece. He closed the door, drove off. The air felt wrong. I turned to Rio. What was that? Rio looked pale. "Mari, go home." "What?" "I have to go somewhere." Rio, but he was already stepping away, and that was the first time I saw it. Fear. on Rio Haruma's face.